You are listening to the Beaverton, North America's trusted source of news.
This week on the Beaverton, for the first time, the average 65-year-old Canadian man earns more than the average 34-year-old Canadian man. That's great news for Werther's Originals, bad news for energy drink manufacturers, and anyone who doesn't want to see a revolution. Trump's chief of staff trashes colleagues in Vanity Fair interview, prompting the world to ask, wait, Trump had a chief of staff this whole time? And Israel denies 6 Canadian MPs entry into the West Bank. Israeli officials said the MPs were planning to engage in dangerous and illegal activities, like talking to Palestinians and telling the world what's happening there. That's right, it's time to make fun of the news once again on the Beaverton Weekly Report. Welcome to the show, everyone. So glad you are tuning in. I'm your host, Luke Gordon-Field. Before I introduce our panel this week, 2 bits of business to take care of. First, a little bit of scheduling. This will be our last regular episode of the podcast for 2025. We'll be off next week and then back the week after with a year in review New Year's Eve special hosted by Ian MacIntyre, which we will be recording right after this. So news, don't do anything for 2 weeks. Don't do it. Also, a reminder, we are doing a live show at Edmonton, at Wind Eruption on Saturday, January 24th. Our first live podcast since we brought the show back. A special Beaverton News Bulletin will kick things off, followed by our podcast recording featuring myself, Ian, and Claire, plus a surprise special guest. We got an email from the festival just the other day. The tickets are moving quick, so get yours before they're all gone at winterruptionyeg.com. And now, joining me this week are 2 of our regular panelists, both of whom are rumored to be thinking about crossing the floor to another political comedy podcast, Clare Blackwood and Ian MacIntyre.
I'm becoming a communist.
Come on, because news.
Because news is the governing party to our opposition. I will acknowledge that much.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't think politically we line up with the Conservatives, obviously, but in terms of, like, lack of power, for sure, yeah.
Oh, we're the Greens, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's start with the crossing the floor news, which is a new one. People might have heard me say that before, but there's a new one. Michael Ma, formerly the Conservative MP for Markham-Unionville, is now the Liberal MP for Markham-Unionville. He crossed the floor one day after attending the Conservative Christmas party, just in time to join the Liberals at their Christmas party. Maybe he just wanted to go to 2 parties?
I mean, who wouldn't want a party with a few hundred middle-aged backbench MPs and their board plus ones?
Oh, yeah.
Who can resist?
You got to compare and contrast the 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the blow at the Conservative one is so much better. I can guarantee that much right now.
1,000%. I like to think that he wanted to go to the NDP Christmas party, but the NDP didn't have one because they couldn't decide who was going to organize it.
They had a Christmas lunch party.
Yeah.
They were like,
It's all they could afford. It's all they could afford.
Yeah.
There's one drink ticket.
Whereas the block's on a 3-day bender around Quebec City.
Yeah, it's very Catholic and very fun.
They still haven't found the leader.
Yes, in his statement announcing his decision to cross, Ma said this is a time for unity, and Carney is offering the steady, practical approach we need.
That's also what it says on Carney's Tinder profile.
Oh, man, I mean, hey, we'll
I
do it for
bring
some.
up fiscal conservatism in the 3rd date, baby. Let's talk about banks.
Let me balance your books, etc.
Every time we say Bank Daddy, Sexy Cardi is gone, we bring him back. Well, so that statement,
We don't want it, for the record. Like, it's not a thing we are trying to manifest. It just keeps happening, and we wish it would stop.
we're the one making jokes
I
about
know,
it.
I
What
was
do you
going
mean we
to say,
don't
some
want
people
it?
would say that's fairly Freudian.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah.
I mean, no one else is doing this but us, so I'm not sure who you can blame other
Stop
than
holding
us.
me accountable for my actions, Claire.
Never. It puts the spotlight on you and takes it off of me.
So that statement, it's not directly trashing Poilievre's leadership the way D'Entremont did when he basically came out and called the Conservatives all frat boys who were just sucking up to Poilievre. But it's clearly implying it because by contrast, when he says Carney is offering steady, practical approach, he's basically saying Poilievre's a wild, shoot from the hip politico who, doesn't want to actually lead the country, just wants to score points.
I do love the passive aggressiveness of it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's already like a liberal approach. It's always like, I'm not going to say anything that mean, but if you read between the lines, I fucking hate that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't resist being led by somebody who doesn't regard reporters as Satan incarnate.
In fairness, very Markham, very 905.
Yeah, which I think is, more than anything he could say about Poilievre. I think so much of the reason is that, the suburban MPs who are like, okay, what are suburbans like? They like things to stay the same and not change too much and everything be kind of calm and straightforward. And that is just so not Poilievre, and it is so Carney, again, without getting into the sexual nuances of it. So, I mean, I think that's a huge part of it as well. Before we get into the Poilievre side of things, this puts the Liberals one seat away from the majority. There's huge rumors and speculation, as there was after Don Trudeau crossed the floor, that future Conservative MPs are also going to cross the floor, at least one, that will get them over the hump they need for the majority.
I mean, you're only saying that because Liberal MPs keep saying it, and also Conservative MPs keep saying it.
and Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, way to be partisan.
Like, everyone is pretty much like, oh yeah, that's happening for sure. No one's being subtle about it. It's great.
It's interesting in that, like, I feel like that expectation had finally died down right before Ma did this. Like, after Don Trudeau crossed the floor and the other guy quit, everyone's like, well, it's just a matter of days. And then like 3-4 weeks went by and nothing happened. And we were like, oh, I guess he held this thing together with glue and spit and whatever and fear. And now it's just like, oh, okay, we're back. Okay. And so now it's even more, all we need is one, and the expectation is there.
And no one likes doing anything before Christmas. Like, all business shuts down through all December.
How did he have time to do that? I don't have time to breathe right now, let alone cross a floor.
I will say the one of the ultimate, and I think nothing could top the pettiness of this, was a Conservative MP complaining that he'd already given Ma his Secret Santa gift that the Conservatives had organized. I think it was Jamil Giovanni, who's been on a I'm definitely not running to replace Poilievre wink wink tour, and is in the media every 5 seconds being like, I got him this was the most like, this has been regifted 10 times gift. I got him an Amazon Fire Stick, and he accepted it and hasn't returned it, even though he crossed the floor.
It's the same one J.D. Vance gave him that he didn't use.
You can watch Prime. You can watch Apple TV Plus. Like, what are we doing? So
there's a bunch of sofa videos saved on YouTube. I don't know why. Sorry, old joke. That I got to leave in 2025.
That's fair.
Until we get confirmation. But so this is clearly the reason the Liberal MPs especially keep talking about this, the reason the media is talking about this and is being fed this by the Liberal MPs is because this is not happening at random. This is a orchestrated campaign that the PMO and Carney and the Liberal Party are doing to recruit Conservative MPs in red-blue ridings to cross the floor and get into power finally, et cetera, and probably are promising things like potential cabinet spots, things like that, which is allowed, is 100% allowed. When it happened in reverse a few years ago, when Leona Alslev left Trudeau's government, or Trudeau's party, I should say, to cross the floor and join the Conservative MPs cheered and celebrated it ad nauseum. But leaving aside the Conservative hypocrisy, how do we feel about the Liberals working so hard behind the scenes to get the majority that they didn't win on election night?
I feel like if the person that I voted for, not directly for, but changed parties on me, I would be mad. Yeah, I would be mad about it unless it was unless the position of the opposition party drastically changed. So like you said, it's legal. They can do it. I would just, as a voter, I would have a question of is this just rats leaving a sinking ship? Or is this the politician genuinely going, I've heard from my voters and they don't like what's going on in the party anymore. Things have changed, et cetera, et cetera. And I would prefer Carney's approach.
And also, in fairness, the way a lot of these ridings vote, sure, Conservatives might have won, but they might have gotten a little over a third of the votes in the riding. So there's a good chance that the riding could be much more left or center left or whatever you want to say. It might not represent a massive swing. I could have looked up the polling in the Markham riding before we got here.
Markham Unionville has swung back and forth between the Liberals and the Conservatives greatly over the last 10 years.
A thing I definitely knew before you pointed it out.
Yeah.
Trudeau won it and in 2015. I don't remember how it went in 2019. Obviously, the Conservatives won it back at some point, but it is the definition of a bellwether riding. Usually, well, except not in this case. Usually, the party who wins it is the party who wins the election. Okay. But in this case, obviously, not so much. So it's a very much. But this was an election where, as we've talked about in our election special, the Liberals did everything they needed to do in Quebec. Mostly, they did great out west. It was Ontario that really let them down in terms of getting a majority. Obviously, they still won a ton of seats, and the 905s did not swing as far back to the Liberals in the post elbows up era as the rest of the country did. So that's how the Conservatives were able to hold them to minority. And so, this is definitely a swing riding, no question. And I think, as we've seen in Nova Scotia with D'Entremont, like, we will likely see polling in the next few days that will confirm whether or not people approve of this. In Nova Scotia, the voters in that riding seem to have approved of his move to a great deal. Now, there's a big difference between
There's not a lot going on in Yarmouth, though. So they were like, hey, we're on the news. Great.
We'll put up a little post that says, Ian's from Nova Scotia. You can make these jokes.
I'm allowed to.
Yes. But, there is a difference, though, of course, between the voters and, of course, the numerous volunteers and party officials who worked their butts off to get you elected and then see you cross the floor. And those people have every right to be like, I spent 3, 4, 5 weeks or longer trying to get you elected and spending my time, which no one has enough of. And so, I think those people have every right to be mad, of course, because there was literally no indication this was going. Today in the news, there was the revelation that Ma had sent out a flyer to his riding, and in that flyer was a very pro-conservative, anti-Carney message. And of course, he sent it out, then crossed the floor, and then the flyer arrived, and people are reading it 4 or 5 days after this guy crossed the floor, being like, Canadians can't afford Carney's tax agenda. And
it's That's wild.
Yeah, but of course, he probably just signed off on something that his riding had put together, and he was just like, oh, yeah, yes. And he probably thought to himself, well, if I tell him not to put that out, that'll give away that I'm thinking of crossing the floor. So he just kind of went along with it. And it was probably from the Riding Association and the politicos there. But yeah, it's crazy.
That's funny. I think I would rather have just like the small group of people involved in the postcard campaign have suspicions than send out the postcards to my entire riding and be very confusing.
Like, hey, you 5 guys, be cool.
Yeah, exactly. Like, who are you going to tell your friends?
You 5 young conservative diehards, be cool. Don't tell your friends in Poilievre's office about this, who will then sick his goons on me.
If you keep it quiet, I got an Amazon Fire Stick in it for you.
You're going to have to share it around.
You seen Landman on Paramount Plus?
I think there's a free week. Yeah, I mean, this is the benefit of having a political system that's too boring to get mad about. Like, I just think I don't think they're going to pay a political price for this.
No, especially because they're essentially the same party right now. Only one of them is just led by a bully. He just came out the other day and said the Liberals are counterfeit Conservatives. Yeah. So it's not, to be fair to Michael Ma, it's not as if he left and joined the Greens.
Yeah.
Which, in fairness, would be way funnier.
It would be. I would love that. But he essentially just went to the nicer party with the same values.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as we wrote,
the chill conservatives.
Yeah, the chill conservatives.
And shout out to one of our writers, Bridget, for the headline that she wrote for the site, which was "Progressive Conservative Joe's Progressive Conservative Party."
Pretty succinct and
summed it up quite well. So let's talk about the conservative side of this, which is the caustic leadership of Pierre Poilievre. Do you think the reason he's so anathema, I guess, or repellent to moderate conservative MPs, most of whom, again, this past April, spent weeks and months telling every voter who would listen how much this guy should be PM. Is it his is the reason he's so repellent now his leadership style, or just the fact that he clearly is an electoral drag on the ticket?
I think the latter, purely just because the man hasn't changed. He's never changed. If he got elected in his a little Alberta riding and all of a sudden had a complete personality change and turned into a completely different person, then I would understand. Yeah. But I think it was just I think they probably approved of his leadership style until it became apparent that it wasn't working anymore and he was just going to dog-headedly slam his head against the wall and not stop.
I think it's the same flaw, those two things, because I think, they approved of his leadership style. They probably didn't like it. Yeah. Because he's a wiener to everyone.
Yeah, they were willing to go along with it when they thought that's what voters were into.
It benefited them. Yeah.
Even though anyone with, even the slightest bit of common sense knew that voters weren't into Poilievre. They just hated Trudeau by the end.
Yes.
And that massive polling number had very little to do with Poilievre. If anything, it would have been bigger if it was Aaron O'Toole still.
Let's not get crazy.
Or Rhoda Ambrose or any seen as moderate conservative figure. Michelle Rempel-Garn or whoever. Take your pick.
Michael Ma, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably going to run away with it. But for sure, all Pierre has to do is not be a wiener for 5 minutes, and he's incapable of it.
Yeah.
He's the hall monitor who got a taste of being a bully, and now he can't go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and to that point, he went on. This was a little bit of an admission of things aren't working because he went on CBC, which is already like the comedy of this guy who's made it one of his 3 or 4 main policy planks to destroy the CBC, going on the CBC to try and act like a reasonable, not beloved, but reasonable political figure.
Hey, he did appear with Chris Wilson in a skit at that press gallery dinner. So, maybe he's just trying to go on all the CBC shows. Maybe he's trying to set up a career post leadership.
Well, we know what his career is post leadership, and it's being a right-wing podcaster, bro.
Yeah.
But yes, so he went on with Rosemary Barton and did like a 15-minute sit-down interview. And, he, I'm sure, knew going into this and would have talked with his staff and would have been prepped for the question that is going to be asked, which is your leadership style working, or does it need to change because you're losing MPs left and right? He would have known that question was coming a mile away. It was the guaranteed question, first question. It ended up being the second question because, of course, what happened in Australia happened. But it was coming. And she asked it, I think, 4 different times in 4 different ways, because all he kept doing was saying affordability, cost of living crisis, taxes, carbon taxes, hidden liberal taxes.
That was my favorite. Hidden liberal taxes, like it's some giant conspiracy theory.
Yeah. And there's a strength, obviously, in staying on message and being like, you don't answer the question. You answer what you want to hear and say what you want to say. And
there's got to be an art to that.
But that's the thing.
That's called being a politician.
Yeah, you have to do that while subtly seeming like you're answering the question. Yeah. When the journalist, who was not, and I know conservatives hate Rosemary Barton and hate the CBC, but who was not being unfairly harsh towards him, or was not being even argumentative in any way. She was just having a polite conversation. She was like, okay, so just to confirm, she was so trying to be like, you're extending an olive branch by coming on here. I'm not going to be combative with you. I just need you to answer this one question. And 4 different times, he just pivoted. How does he not have an answer to this question by now?
In fairness, he also doesn't have an answer to the cost of living crisis. So.
Well, yeah, but he can just say cost of living crisis.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's capable of self-reflection, and he will never understand why people don't like him.
Yeah. But even if, and I agree with that, but assuming that is true, you still have to have the bullshit answer that you say. You still have to say, look, I understand that my style is not for everybody, but XYZ, pivot to my strengths, whatever. You still have to have some version, because that is the question that people are going to ask from now until the leadership review. And if you don't get 98% approval at the leadership review, they're going to keep asking it, especially when/if another MP crosses the floor and the Liberals get that majority that everyone's kind of expecting them to get, at which point you're looking at 3.5 years in opposition guaranteed, unless something changes or whatever. So it's insane and political malpractice to not have a prepared, digestible, 3-sentence answer to that question. And to come back to our point of people think we at the podcast or me as the host hate PR ideologically, and that's why we're so hard on them every week. At this point, it has nothing to do with that. It is purely just you are a person with a job, and one of your jobs is to be able to answer questions. And if you are completely unwilling or uninterested in doing that, then you're bad at your job.
Yeah.
And it's just what it is.
That is actually one of my biggest pet peeves. And like you said, it's nonpartisan. I've seen Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, and when they're asked a question and they just ignore it, it makes my blood boil. It's why did you come on here at all?
Yeah, and if they ignore it in an artful way, I give them some credit, even though it's frustrating, and I agree, and shitty. But when you're just so not even blissfully, when you're so just completely unable to even pretend you're addressing the question, to the point that the journalist interviewing you is right, but so to pivot back 3 different times to this central question that you knew you were going to get asked when you came on here, that's when it's just dude, you're not even trying to win. As much as I'm not a conservative, you should be trying to win. And it doesn't feel like you're trying to win. It feels like you're, again, trying to win with your base, who you've won with 8 million times over.
Sorry,
go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say, the man was on autopilot, and he's just sitting there the entire time imagining burning the CBC to the ground.
Yeah, maybe that's it. He was too locked in a fantasy.
Yeah, he shouldn't have said that, too. He shouldn't have led with that.
I know, right?
Yeah, it made it awkward.
The gas can underneath the seat was just a dead giveaway.
But the thing is locked in a fantasy, you're right, because all he can think of as he's there not giving the answer is, oh, man, when we clip this on TikTok, it's going to look great for my base. And what he forgets, he sounds like Burgess Meredith as the Penguin. My references are very current.
Why are they getting older?
You're so cool.
It's like every week you go back in time a decade.
Like the Little Rascals next week.
You want to be hip? Talk to Ian MacIntyre.
But seen the jazz singer?
But the thing he doesn't remember is that other people are watching this interview, guy. And you know who watches the CBC is old people. And you know who they don't like is snide young people.
Yeah.
And they're going to watch the whole interview and they're going to notice that you said the same stupid non-answer 8 times in a row. Yeah. And that's going to hurt you.
Which sometimes I think in his defense, it was just sometimes it does work just being like, what's the problem? The liberals. The liberal, nobody can afford anything. It's the liberals' fault. It's the liberals' fault. It's the liberals' fault. Sometimes that does work on people, and not just people who were like rabid Pierre Poilievre stans.
It was working for 2 years leading up to Trudeau's resignation and Donald Trump and the game being changed on him.
I think he's just so deeply, deeply sad that Trudeau is gone.
Yeah. And you know, I feel repetitive saying this because we've talked about how he can't get over it before, but that is an indictment of him where it's like, how are you still fighting the last war?
Give us new material, Poilievre. Please.
Come up with a single other personality trait other than Trudeau and just subbing and then Control F replacing Carney for Trudeau in your prepared remarks.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing of it all. And you know, until he does, you know, there's going to be a lot of speculation leading up to this leadership review. Now, I think it is going to be similar to the speculation when there were polls that was like, oh, he's not. What if he doesn't win Battle River Crowfoot and then he won it by a ton? And it's like, I think it's going to be the same. I don't think he's going to get 90% or whatever, but I think he's going to sail through the leadership review. And if I'm wrong, then I'll be kind of delighted, and that's fine. But
that'll be that week's segment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'll be delighted by that. But I think he'll get easily 70-75% because the base loves him because of all the reasons we just said that he is unelectable to the people who aren't the base are the same reasons that he will do well in the leadership review. That is a base-driven review.
In fairness, maybe that's the reason why he went on this interview and did that because he knows. For the next month, I'm only talking to the base.
Yes.
And maybe that actually is kind of smart.
Maybe. Yeah, but I think at a certain point, no matter how much the base might like you, if they see you as an unelectable figure, that will overwhelm how much they like that you own the CBC and own the libs and whatever. Or at least if they start, if between now and the leadership review, the Liberals get the majority, and Conservatives are saying, okay, we are going to be out of power for 15 years.
Yeah.
Or 14 and a half years, or whatever will end up being by the time there's the next general election. At a certain point, they got to start being like, what do we need? We need to make changes. Yeah. And it can't just be we're going to sub in Scheer for O'Toole for Poilievre, et cetera, et cetera. It's got to be like, we got to reevaluate what we're saying to Canadians because we have lost under so many different electoral circumstances.
Guys, we've been out of power for 3 Avatar movies. This is unacceptable.
That's the new way we measure time here in Canada.
In epochs of Avatar movies, yes.
Man, I haven't seen you in half an Avatar's age.
I haven't seen you since the water one, and now it's the fire one. I don't know Avatar. I've never seen a single second of Avatar.
You nailed it.
I know the new one is fire, and the last one was water, and that's what I got. Well, let's pivot to a truly terrible subject, and sorry to say that, but it is. We have to talk a little bit about this past weekend and the really horrible news that came out. First, there was a truly awful anti-Semitic shooting in Australia on Sunday, which was the first night of Hanukkah. Jewish residents were celebrating at Sydney's Bondi Beach, which is one of the most beautiful, gorgeous places in the world, when 2 terrorists opened fire. The attack left, as of the recording, and this might change, 15 dead and dozens more wounded. The casualty rate would have likely been way higher were it not for the actions of Ahmed El Ahmed, a local who rushed one of the gunmen, and disarmed him, being shot twice in the process. He's expected to make a recovery, I believe.
We absolutely need a heroic movie about this guy.
Oh, man.
He can choose the Australian super hunk that gets to play him. Any one of them, his choice. He's earned it.
Yeah, pick a Hemsworth brother, man. Yeah. Go with Chris, obviously. But anyways, I don't know why you would choose the other two, but it's your choice. You've done enough. If you want to go with Luke, it's your call.
Either way, his call. He's earned it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and as I'm sure now everyone has seen that video of him just charging the guy. He had no cover. It's one of the most heroic things you will ever see.
Yeah.
It's what a lot of people think that they would do, but actually wouldn't.
Right? Yes.
It's what we all imagine being like, if I were in that situation, I'd do that. No, you'd be shitting yourself in fear.
Yeah.
And he did it.
100%. And I do want to mention, and I think the story is still developing, so we don't have all the details, but apparently there wasn't like clear video of it, so that's why I didn't get immediately in the news. But there was a couple who did a very similar attempt within the government, and tragically both of them were shot and killed.
No.
And so, obviously even not even more heroic. I'm not comparing heroism, but obviously even more of a sacrifice that they made. So, that story is still kind of breaking as we're recording. So I don't have all the details and I don't have their names, so apologies for that. But, 3 unbelievable examples of heroism in the light of this or in a moment of such horror and terribleness. So we obviously want to mention that. There are, other than just acknowledging what a horrific situation is and extending our condolences, and especially to the families of the people who passed away, there are 2 things I want to cover here. The first is the immediate move by right-wingers everywhere, but especially in the States, being like, see, gun laws don't work. Australia famously, super tough gun laws. Gun laws don't work.
Wow, I bet that's the most tone-deaf and heartless response from a right-winger to a tragedy that we're going to talk about this week.
Foreshadowing. Yes. So so to that point, first, again, 15 people dead is horrific. Compare it to the number of dead in Nevada, where there was one shooter opening up on a crowd, and the death rate was 3, 4, 5 times higher. And at the Vegas, I think it was a country music festival shooting or show. And so there's that. Second, at the same time as this, or roughly around the same time, there was literally a mass shooting in the U.S. that got almost no coverage because they're so common we don't cover them anymore.
I honestly thought they were the same news story.
Yeah.
And when Trump was posting about it, I thought he had dementia brain and was getting it wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, that's actually 2 completely different, horrific mass shootings.
Yeah. So I think it's in the last 30 years or whatever since Australia announced their gun ban, I think this is now the 6th or 7th mass shooting, and the U.S. is on 5,000. Yeah. Don't quote me on those numbers. I'm very much generalizing, but it's somewhere.
Like 1 a day.
Yeah. It's somewhere of. And obviously there are levels to mass shootings, as horrific a sentence as that is. 15 people versus 2 or 3 fatalities, that's a massive difference. But still, we're talking about a country where this is so extremely rare that this will be talked about and should be talked about and how to address and constantly covered for months and months and years to come, versus a country where these are so common, they're not front page news anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's absurd to be like, oh, gun laws don't work. If these terrorists had automatic, had AR-15s versus I think they were firing with long rifles.
It's like a bolt action.
Bolt action. Yeah.
Think about how much different the casualty rate would have been and how many more casualties there would be given how many thousands of people were congregated on that beach.
Yeah.
Because again, it's one of the most popular beaches in the world. And so it's, it would, I'm sure, even at nighttime, I'm sure there were thousands upon thousands of people there. So there's that point. The second is the way Israeli and other very pro-Israel officials immediately came out and said this was the consequence of Australia recognizing the state of Palestine and allowing people to protest its genocide in Gaza.
Wasn't it Netanyahu who said that?
Netanyahu absolutely said that. And then on CTV today, Lisa Raitt, former Conservative deputy leader, said that in the wake of the shooting, we need to censor the protests and not allow them to have signs that she deems offensive or that had something to do with this, which again, there's no link whatsoever. As far as we know, I mean, obviously if this changes, we'll mention it. And again, this shooting was horrific. Since the ceasefire was declared, there have been 393, I believe, people who died in Palestine, in Gaza alone. Since the ceasefire was declared, not even counting the thousands upon thousands before, people are literally freezing to death. Kids are literally freezing to death in Gaza right now because Israel will not allow winter aid in, will not allow, they're sleeping in tents in freezing conditions, in rain and mud. And so to say that this horrific thing means you can't protest this other horrific thing, or you have to do so in a quiet, small way that won't bother anyone, which is really what they're saying, is yeah, you can protest, but just keep it on this tiny little street and don't say anything about genocide and don't say anything that would impugn Israel because blah, 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 then it just strikes me as absurd, because as evil and wrong and stupid as it is to blame the Jewish community for the actions of Israel, which is maybe what the shooters were doing, we don't actually know that yet, it is must be equally as stupid to blame pro-Palestinian protesters for the actions of two terrorists who, again, as we know now, had no connection to the pro-Palestinian movement, as far as we know. Like, aren't those so obviously equally stupid positions?
I don't know. It just sucks that, I don't know. I know I'm not saying anything groundbreaking here, but it just sucks that after a horrific event like this, that it's a race to see who casts political blame first.
Yeah.
And then it's the volley back and back and back. And I'm not saying anyone's wrong for trying to call this false equivalency out, but it's like, I'm sure you guys know, I know lots of Jewish friends who are really scared this week. Mm-hmm. And it just sucks that it immediately gets wrenched away from like the humans that are impacted by it. And I'm not saying that's what we're trying to do here. I'm just saying like
it's immediately being used as like gotcha fuel.
The way the media cycle of these things is so rote at this point. It just always plays out along these same kind of things. And it's like even here in Toronto, like people are fucking scared.
Yeah.
And again, I know I'm not making a cogent point here, but it's just so depressingly predictable. And I don't know.
Yeah, and I think your point is accurate, and we are adding to the cycle. I'm not saying we're not. We are reacting to the reaction to the reaction to the reaction. Like we're that line in that Bo Burnham song where it's just like the backlash to the backlash to the backlash to the thing that just begun. Like I get it, and so part of me wants to just be, you were completely right. And like, we should just shut up and just say, may their memory be a blessing, which is how I feel and is what I want to do.
And I know you do. Like, I'm not trying to say you don't.
And just say like, this is not a political thing. And this is just a horrific thing. And well, I mean, it is political, obviously, because the terrorists presumably were targeting Jewish people. That makes it a very political thing. I'm not saying it's not political. But what I mean is the reaction to it should just be universal condemnation. And that's it. And how do we defend Jewish people and defend Jewish safety? And I think there are very many people, and I think that the vast, vast majority of the conversation is about that. But when, a mainstream political figure like Lisa Raitt on the most watched news broadcast in Canada on CTV News goes out and says, well, the obvious thing to do now is censor pro-Palestinian protests, if you're someone who believes very ardently, as I do, that, there needs to be protests and that these voices need to be amplified because what is happening in Gaza is so horrific, then it's just like, well, do we just cede the whole argument and just kind of go away?
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know. Because I do feel shitty for making this political, but at the same time, it's like, well, it was immediately political the second it happened.
And that's Lisa Raitt, I know you're listening. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
It's not helping. Come on the pod and debate us.
Debate me, bro, Lisa Raitt.
Yeah, that's helping things, right?
Yeah,
that'll turn down.
We need more podcast debates. That's what I think will solve that will bring about peace in the Middle East.
More middle-aged white guys on podcasts daring women to come debate them.
Yeah, we need that.
Yeah,
I'll just go.
Your seat will be the Lisa Raitt seat next time. Yeah,
great, yay. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I mean, look, I for a little behind the scenes, when we were talking about bringing this podcast back, we were talking about like, how do we cover horrific news in a way that isn't just soapbox, ardent, horrific stuff. And, I've probably failed in that this week, and I know that. But
it's a serious thing, and we don't want to be jerks about a serious thing.
There is a conversation that has to be had, and it is being had, and it's been going on in the States for a while, which is just the politicization of tragedy. And like we've seen it with the shooter of Charlie Kirk, like we see it the second that anybody gets shot or anybody's assassinated, it's not about the person, it's who was the shooter, what ideology are they a part of, what side are they on, and then maybe if we have time, we'll talk about the person who died.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely something that should be addressed and amended and acknowledged. But it's just like this instantaneous, like, gotcha moments tied to these tragedies needs to stop.
Well, it certainly doesn't help that every media incentive that exists right now is towards doing the pattern that you just laid out.
Yes.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, and the fact that it'd be one thing if it was just people like Lisa Raitt who are no longer in power, but the fact that it is Netanyahu, it is political officials who are immediately joining into that ecosystem and being like, immediately being like, this is your fault, anyone who opposes us. Like, as we assault Canadian MPs in the West Bank, and, which was alleged today, by the way, if people haven't heard that story. There was an MP who alleged that as she tried to enter the West Bank, Israeli soldiers pushed her against a wall and then pushed her back into a room and screamed in her face that they would hit her as much as they wanted.
Jesus Christ.
A Canadian MP came out a couple hours ago and said that. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her name. She's a fairly well-known MP. So like it's again, I mean, on a certain level, gets the fundamental thing of how do you protest the actions of Israel without condemning Jewish people as a whole, which to me, is obviously what every pro-Palestine person needs to do. Obviously, there are many people who do not. If the shooter's motivation turns out to become that they were, attacking Jewish people because of the actions of the state of Israel, then that is horrific and evil and anti-Semitism 101. And, and I think that it's very fair for people to say, hey, why is there a pro-Palestine march happening just in a Jewish residential neighborhood? That's totally fair game to say, hey, that's shitty. Don't do that. Maybe technically, legally, you have the right, but that's a lot different than protesting outside the Israeli embassy or protesting outside parliament. Why are you doing that? And for sure, there are many people who are opposed to Israel who have crossed that line and have, embraced collective guilt on Jewish people for the actions of a state. And, that is crappy, and we can have nuanced conversations about it. But no one is trying to have nuanced conversations. It's just shut down the protests. No. And it's like, okay, so we just don't object to what we're seeing on the news and on social media every day, because that also seems bad.
No, we got to score them points. Yeah. We got to score those political points. We got to make sure that we keep our guns.
We're going to clip this for TikTok, right?
Oh, yeah. This will be the clip for
Go
sure.
Go guns!
Just all of us kind of with our heads in our hands being like, oh.
Yeah.
Bumper.
Yeah, the hypocrisy of being like, this is mass shootings occur regardless. It's not about the guns. And I'm like, yes, it is. Like, you come on. You live in America. You cannot talk about, like, it's not the guns. Or gun laws don't work. Yes, they do.
Yeah. But keep in mind, what if I live in America and I believe that the only country that exists is America and all the stats from any other country in the world are irrelevant to me?
Yes.
Whoa, that's crazy. You exist?
And also,
I'm the majority of Americans.
And also, I'm being paid a lot of money by the gun lobby to espouse these false equivalencies.
100%. Well, let's talk about a story that absolutely did not need to be politicized in any way, even more so, but sure was.
It's a happy one this time, right?
Yeah, it's great.
Really happy?
The news is as we take it, folks. So let's talk for a second about Rob Ryder. I obviously will not get into the horrific details of the story. People have presumably all heard about it. I do want to say, and this is an aside, I was a huge, and it's one of those moments that I think happens a lot when artists pass away, especially in such horrible circumstances. You don't realize how much someone has meant to you until they're gone. And so I was a TV kid growing up. And so every day after school, if I wasn't playing hockey, I was home and I was watching reruns of MASH and All in the Family. Every day. Wow. That was Channel 54 in Toronto. I don't remember the name of the station, but people who grew up in Toronto will know this. Channel 54, it was rerun central, and they aired, and all day, every day, they aired the classic sitcoms. So starting at noon, it was I Love Lucy and I Dream of Jeannie and stuff, and then they worked their way forward. And so every day I came home, I watched one episode of MASH, one episode of All in the Family, and then I switched over to The Simpsons at 5, I think. That was my routine for probably from 8 to 12. And so and he was, obviously Archie Bunker is the star of that show, closely followed by Edith. But his role as Meathead, and I know that was the character's name, but that's how everyone knows him. His role as Meathead and the way he was able to play such a lovable guy who was right about everything but had to be a doofus for the scene is such a difficult portrayal. And obviously so much of that was the great writing of Norman Lear and the writers, and so much of the great performance that he was playing off of by Carol Connor playing Archie. But he was brilliant, and I loved him in that. And I had no idea. I didn't know his name. When you're a kid, you don't know actors' names, or at least I didn't. I couldn't have told you his name. But I watched him every day. And then a few years later, at a sleepover or something, someone put on Spinal Tap, and my mind was blown. And then I don't remember the exact order, but at some point I see Misery. At some point I see Stand By Me. At some point I see The Princess Bride. And I have literally no idea until years later that all those were directed by the same person, let alone that was the same person who I was watching every day for 4 or 5 years in a row.
You couldn't tell from how Misery is hilarious?
Yeah. When Kathy Bates looked over his broken body and said, "As you wish."
I will give him so much credit for, among many other things, I'll give him so much credit for choosing to go with that, as horrific as that was, versus her cutting off the legs or the feet the way she does in the book. So I appreciate the way he tweaked Stephen King's instincts. Yes. Obviously, there was many examples of that. He also produced The Shawshank Redemption and Seinfeld.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, after he did Stand By Me, there's a pretty famous story of Stephen King kind of like watching the screening, leaving the room for 15 minutes after the screening, and Rob Reiner was like, "Oh fuck, he hates it. Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck," and then Stephen King coming back in and being like, "That was better than I could have ever imagined," and also like he changed the ending. Famously, Stephen King not great with endings, and he changed the ending, and Stephen King was like, "God, I wish I'd thought of that."
Oh wow.
Yeah, so like things like that. So that's a complete aside, and just to say that this is someone who I think people don't realize how much impact he had. Plus, of course, he was just a beloved guy who would pop up and stuff and be great, like Wolf of Wall Street, New Girl, so many things in his later years. Yeah, The Bear. Oh my God, he was so funny in The Bear when he's just like the guy's pitching him on different catchphrases or whatever or names for the sandwich shop, and he just keeps naming famous catchphrases from other brands, and Rob Reiner's just being like, "Nah, that's McDonald's. No, that's Subway. Now you're just naming restaurants." He's so funny. And so, it's just such a tragedy. And, it has nothing, to your point, Ian, before about you're really worried about was this a political thing? Was this because he was a well-known Democrat? Was this because he was a well-known Jewish person? And it turns out, no, it was just a horrific personal story of, drug addiction, mental illness, and an absolutely horrific act by a very obviously troubled guy and his son. And so there was nothing political about it, and all anyone needed to say was, "This is horrible," and condolences, and move on. And then, of course, Trump being Trump can't resist gloating. He first posted on Truth Social that Reiner was killed due to, quote, Trump derangement syndrome, which I think he's implying one of his followers killed him, and that's good. I don't know how else you could take that, because this is before we knew that it was his son. And then, that got a fair amount of backlash. And then he came out at a press conference and said, "No, I stand by it. Reiner was very bad for our country, and I wasn't a fan." And I know there's just no bottom to how low Trump will go. But did that one surprise you at all?
I mean, once you get past redacted thousands of times in the Epstein files, there's not really a bottom past that.
It made me sad. It just feels like the last gasp of a dying narcissist. Literally.
Yeah. I will say, I know this is the hobby horse I keep beating every time I'm on the show, but one of the things of frontotemporal dementia is your inhibitions start going. And I know Trump has never been an inhibited guy.
Yeah, that's a tough one to argue.
But if you start to look at his public appearances in public, they are getting not worse, but sloppier.
Sloppier for sure. Today, he's just standing, meandering around while generals are talking behind it, in the corner, and he doesn't know where he's going for sure.
But it's it used to be when he said something horrible, it would be something snide and offhand, and you kind of couldn't pin him down on it, and it would be a plausible deniability thing of oh, that's a shame or something shitty. And this, he's just no, I'm saying a terrible thing because I'm a terrible guy.
Yeah, and most of the terrible things, and correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the terrible things that he normally says are at least tangentially related to politics or politicians or policies that have happened. And this it didn't surprise me, but it was one of those just wow, this was unnecessary. And I don't say that, weirdly, I don't say that about a lot of his posts. I don't think they're unnecessary. I think he's trying to make a point, and I can see what he's doing.
To benefit his supporters. Correct. Or play to them. Yeah,
yes. And I think this was the difference where I was just it wasn't needed, it wasn't necessary, it wasn't going to help you in any way.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think he's such a narcissist that he was just some little part of his brain was this is going to help me somehow.
Well, I think he thinks he won. Rob Reiner didn't like him. Rob Reiner dead. I win. I think it's I think it's just 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I guess maybe I just didn't know that he had a bitter feud with Rob Reiner. Was that a fairly well-known thing?
Rob Reiner was definitely a very outspoken critic of Trump, especially in the early days of Trump's first administration. He was a big proponent of like the Russia stuff and everything, and like, you know, gave a lot of interviews calling Trump, you know, a very, you know, risible figure, which I don't think anyone disagrees with over here. But
and also
you know,
kind of like a famed liberal political activist, like fighting. I'm trying to remember how it worked. Prop 8 in California that did legalize gay marriage.
No, reverse. Prop 8 banned gay marriage,
and he got it struck down, or like
he campaigned on
it.
I think the Supreme Court
single-handedly he got a law degree, and you know, no, but okay, that was it. Like, but he was like a real driving force behind a lot of stuff like that.
Oh, okay, well then that makes a little bit more sense to me. If he had been, you know, under Trump's skin for a while.
Yeah,
and in a weird way, like
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that makes more sense.
It's 100% the rationale. Like, he wasn't mad at Rob Reiner because of he didn't like the bucket list. It was because of this stuff.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to be devil's advocate here, but like I was thinking like when Charlie Kirk got assassinated, and I did see a lot of people being like, yes, this is a terrible thing, but you know, there were political things he stood for, and let's not try and rewrite all of that.
Yeah.
And in my mind, like that was fair commentary, and a lot of people were like, how dare you say a bad thing about this guy that just got killed? Yeah. You're a monster. I still think what Trump is doing here is miles and miles and miles beyond even that equivalence. Like,
oh, for sure. But I mean, I think that is the equivalent that a lot of people have drawn is like people did not like when people on the left and again, it was such a small number, celebrated, in the grand scheme of things, celebrated Charlie Kirk's assassination.
And that's that's a bad thing to do. To be like, yay, he's dead. That's a bad...
For sure. But that is a guy who literally sent people in buses to January 6th. I actively worked to undermine democracy and attacked almost every minority group you can think of in very harmful ways. Whereas Rob Reiner is a guy who called Trump some names.
And made some fun movies.
Yeah. And like, you know, so that's, I think, you know, you're right in that there was the equivalence in, okay, Trump and some people on the right's backlash against Rob Reiner versus no political figure whatsoever, but a few like leftists with Twitter followers, you know, jokes about Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
But Charlie Kirk and Rob Reiner are not the same person. No. You cannot say to me, oh, Rob Reiner was as equally, dividing and hate-filled as Charlie Kirk. You're simply not going to make that argument.
I am going to make that argument. Just for fun.
Wow.
No, I hear you.
Read the subtext of The Princess Bride. It's calling for communism.
Yeah. And I feel like they conflated, after Charlie Kirk was murdered, I feel like they conflated people saying, it's too bad he's dead, he was a piece of shit, with, yay, he's dead.
100%. And there were actively people, and we're going to talk about one of them in a second, creating lists of anyone who said anything bad to try and get them fired and stuff. And so like that was... You know, that was a whole thing. And I don't think anyone's done the same with people on the right who celebrate. Obviously, you can't fire Trump. We've tried so hard. But like, I don't think there's anyone trying to do that with people on the right, because there are other people on the right, obviously, who
But it's also not like Joe Biden came out and tweeted something horrible about Charlie Kirk. Also, because Joe Biden doesn't know how to tweet.
I don't think he knows what a computer is, let's be honest.
I don't think he knows where he is. But but yes. But yeah. So, I think the reason this is getting way more traction, and forgive me, because I don't think this is a particularly original thought, I think people have said this, is that Rob Reiner, yes, you know, was a famous lib and was a Trump critic, but, you know, to your example, Claire, like, that's not what he's known for. He was known for being a normie, good guy, you know, the definition of a mensch, who was a delight every time you saw him on screen. And, you know, as with me, like, even if you didn't know for a long time that he directed some of your favorite movies, eventually you figured that out. And, like, you loved The Princess Bride. You loved Spinal Tap. You loved A Few Good Men, the American President, whatever it is. And so you have an affinity for him. And he's also, even though obviously he kept working, his movies are emblematic of a time and place which, whether accurate or not, is remembered as a time that was far less divided, that was far more unifying, when Americans were not at each other's throats all the time.
You might even say, those were the days.
Thank you. And even though, of course, the great irony of that song is that they're pointing out that all the things weren't actually better back then.
I was going to say, I feel like it was less divisive for straight white people.
Yes. Yeah. And again, I'm not saying that's accurate, that the 80s and 90s were this glorious time when everything was great, but I'm saying it is a certain point of remembrance. And also his movies, even though he was political and All in the Family was obviously political, his movies were basically not. I mean, I haven't rewatched them all in recent days, but like, you know, I don't think there's a particularly left-wing or obviously right-wing message to any of his movies. He is a guy who made movies that were crowd pleasers and that are beloved and are parts of people's childhood.
There's nothing political at all about the American president.
Okay, fair enough, that one.
Exception that proves the rule.
Yeah, fair enough. I was more thinking of the 80s, 90s, but American President's 90s. But yeah, anyways. The American President, even though I know it's not directed by, what's his freaking name? Sorkin, thank you. It just feels so much like it's Sorkin's movie.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, he spun it off into the West Wing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and A Few Good Men also written by Sorkin, of course. But yeah, so that I think is he's just seen as a beloved, normal guy. And so normie people who are not obsessively following political news are just like, this was a great guy. He made some movies that I loved. Why are you being such a piece of shit, Donald Trump? And it's only when you go 8 levels deep on the political background that it even starts to make a bit of sense, even though it's still shitty.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's cutting through the noise of all the other horrible things he said. But all right, before we move on to our big closer, a quick word to you, the listener. First of all, thank you for listening. And if you would be so kind, if you haven't already, jump on your app of choice, leave 5 stars, leave a review, comment on what you liked, comment on what you didn't like, make a note of how nasal my voice was this week. Sorry, I'm battling a cold. And if you can also tell a friend, share our clips, whatever you'd like to do to help us grow the podcast to be as big as it can be. We want to make it bigger and better than it already is. If you are so inclined to support us monetarily, you can do so at patreon.com/thebeaverton. You won't only be keeping this podcast going, you'll be keeping our website going and all our wonderful writers. We are so grateful to our Patreon member support. Ian, do you have any shout-outs you want to do this week?
Oh, yeah. I got. We are going to thank some people from our Patreon. Some of our new Patreon supporters from just this week. We have Donald J. (bracket not T). Thank you for clarifying.
That would work better if Donald Trump's middle initial was not J, which it is.
But not T for Trump.
No, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
Yeah. Also, Anne, Chris, and Ingaurus, which is a cool name, and I don't know how to pronounce it, and I apologize. Email me if I got that wrong, please. And also some of our OG Patreon supporters, Ron, Val K, and Michael Tardabueno, who have been here since month 1, which is amazing. Thank you guys so much for being here. And I've got some comments that people left on the last episode. Arctic Banana on YouTube says, "This is one of your best episodes, and I hate you for not posting with video." Similar comment from Ari Saskis, 5503. People, it would be so much work for us to post full video.
I'm just saying, get those Patreon numbers up, and we'll hire a video editor. Get those Patreon numbers up.
I only have so many hours that I would love to post the video of everyone, but it's so much work.
Yeah. No, that is there is certainly a world where we do that, and it is a world where we get a few more Patreon subscribers than we already have. Again, we're not complaining. We're so grateful to the numbers we have.
We're so grateful for who's there. Yes.
If we get them higher, we'll do full video. If we get them higher, that's all we're saying. We're not saying you have to subscribe, but if you want full video.
Speaking of the Patreon, Alec Thompson said, "Whenever Meghan McKay is on, I know I'm either going to get some really insightful commentary I hadn't considered, or a completely unhinged running joke that will take over the whole episode. And I'm here for it either way."
Hey, in fairness, sometimes it's both.
Yes. So nice. Yeah, that's true.
I love when they dovetail. And yes, that is the Meghan McKay guarantee. She will absolutely give you both of those things.
Yeah. Yes. Awesome. Well, shout out to Meghan, and shout out to, sorry, who left that comment?
That was from Alec Thompson on our Patreon.
Shout out to Alec. Thank you so much. And now it is time for the approximately 10-minute long quiz.
It's the approximately 10-minute long quiz. Brought to you by Time.
Every week I ask our panel to play the approximately 10-minute long quiz, where I put their knowledge of some less widely reported news stories to the test. Panel, our first question. The CRA recently spent $18 million developing an AI chatbot named Charlie that helps Canadians file their taxes. There's just one thing wrong with Charlie. What is it?
He's a Nigerian prince.
That's great.
I was going to guess that Charlie drained all of Lake Superior in order to function, like a good AI.
No, that's a perk of Charlie in the eyes of the AI people.
Got it.
The actual answer, unless anyone knows it.
I'm going to guess Charlie doesn't work for shit.
Yes. Charlie doesn't know how to file your taxes.
Oh, no. That's his one job.
That's his one job.
Charlie should be better than me, someone who doesn't know how to file their taxes. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I can do it wrong if they'll pay me.
I bet you do better than Charlie, who is accurate about 44% of the time, according to...
Oh, I can get 45. Give me the $18 million, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're heading into tax season very soon or anything. And the good news is the government is totally cool when you make mistakes on your taxes and doesn't charge you crazy interest and penalties or anything. So no big deal. Give Charlie a couple years to figure it out, CRA.
Yeah. We don't need all the Great Lakes.
Maybe we'll get the, what's the ship that sunk? It's in the Lightfoot song. It doesn't matter. Maybe we'll get that back. Edmund Fitzgerald.
The Blue Nose?
Yeah, Edmund Fitzgerald.
Oh.
The Blue Nose didn't sink.
Oh, right.
That's in the one that won't give up its dead. That's that lake.
Right.
Anyways, next question. So pointing in on that one. How did an ad for the TV show Pluribus trigger one woman into a complete breakdown?
Because she's Rhea Seehorn's mortal enemy.
Ooh, I like it.
She's like, I hate that she's getting work. That should have been my show. Why didn't Vince Gilligan call me?
Just out of work actor.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, it's like a Who Framed or Whatever Happened to Baby Jane thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think I know.
Please.
It's like there was an ad on her smart fridge that was talking to her.
So that's how she interpreted it, yes. So, so if you haven't seen Pluribus, which, by the way, great show. So the lead actress, played by Rhea Seehorn, is named Carol. And it's without giving anything away, the plot of the show is that like the whole world is essentially taken over by an alien virus, and they communicate with Carol through in a lot of ways, but including through like ads on billboards and stuff. And so the ads for the show kind of ape that style, and so they just take screenshots from the show. And so the woman was also named Carol, which is the character's name, if I remember, I said that. And so the ad on her fridge said, "We're sorry we upset you, Carol." and this person, who was obviously also suffering from, issues already, freaked the fuck out because her fridge was telling her, "We're sorry we upset you." So yet another reason why why smart fridges and advertisements on them are not great.
That's just straight out of Black Mirror.
Yes, it is.
I love that the people at Apple's marketing department were like, okay, we make shows that cost millions of dollars and 5 people watch them. This woman will definitely get the reference we're making when we intrude this on her smart fridge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming on the bottom in like small letters, it was like Pluribus now streaming or whatever.
Yeah.
But in big letters, it was just like...
What do those words mean if I don't know the show?
Yeah, in big letters, it was just like, "We're watching you, you fucking bitch." Like over here.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, Pluribus, the show that 3 people you know rave about. Like, I'm sure it's great.
It is really good.
No. I've heard it's really, really good, but just like hardly anybody is watching it in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, but here's my prediction. It will have a Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul trajectory where no one watches the first season or 2,
right,
and then it reaches critical mass, and all of a sudden everyone's kind of seeing it. That was more of a Breaking Bad thing. I guess Better Call Saul was never that well seen, but yeah, it will. It is one of those shows that it's like, unfortunately, I am going to be that guy who's like, you do have to watch it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, listening audience. You do have to watch Pluribus.
All right.
I'm not saying you got to get Apple TV. You can do what you got to do.
Just tell him you'll add it to the list.
Next question. So 1 point each. A woman in Spain was fired for repeatedly engaging in a certain behavior that at other companies may have drawn praise. What was it?
Not sleeping with her coworkers.
Ooh. I mean, there are, I could actually see that happening. It's not the right answer, but it's a good guess.
Doing the math on, it was like a reverse, non-fiction, not, I was going to guess professional assassinations, because it's some professions that's very prized. Not a lot of them.
The professional assassination company.
Yeah, exactly. The corporation where you go to do that.
Yeah.
Neither accurate, but both great guesses. Anyone know the real answer?
No.
She kept showing up early.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can see how obviously that might merit praise at other companies. Now, in fairness to the company, she was clocking in early, so she was getting paid for time. And the company said she was supposed to start at 7:30. She would come in at 6:45, clock in, and then just kind of do nothing until 7:30.
Right.
Sick.
And she was repeatedly warned to not do this, and then eventually they were just like, "If you're going to keep doing this, we'll let you go." And she kept doing it. So I do get it. I'm on the company side, sadly, as much as I want to be pro worker. I do get it. However, I will say, like, this being a Spanish thing, like, nothing is going to drive home the stereotype of what it's like to work in Mediterranean countries more than a headline reading "Woman fired for coming to work too early."
Oh.
So, the Protestant work ethic DNA in me is like, you can't do that.
I thought it was like she came to work early and did see coworkers sleeping with each other and like wasn't supposed to walk in on them.
Oh, scandalous.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be so fascinating to be like, all right, you know when we're going to hook up? 6:45 in the a.m. Get up, brush your teeth, drive to work, and we'll fuck.
The most sensual
You gotta clock in first, though.
We're getting paid for this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, last question. This is complete the headline. Danielle Smith says courts should not be gatekeepers on
malevolence.
Her being able to drown her enemies in oil.
I like the drowning in oil. So it's more specific than water. Any other guesses or know the real answer?
On her gatekeeping of trans students?
Ooh, a very good guess.
I was going to maybe say her use of the notwithstanding clause.
Nope, also a great guess. Nope. Danielle Smith says courts should not be gatekeepers on constitutional questions. Which is like that's what they do. That's what they do. That's kind of their job.
Like most of it, yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of being like, doctors should not diagnose disease, and these garbage men need to get the hell away from my garbage.
I have news for you about Alberta and doctors.
Yeah, fair enough. So what she was trying to get at was like the whole like, if it's a referendum thing, just leave it alone because it's going beyond you. It's going to the voters. But it does actually come on like she just doesn't know how the courts work because that's kind of their first job among all others.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, not a banner week for Danielle Smith. And
That's pretty dumb.
Although we didn't have a whole segment about her this week, so I guess that's good. She was only in the quiz.
Yeah.
Her and Doug Ford did not have a full segment on. So call it that. All right. Well, at the end of our quiz, I can announce that we have a tie.
What?
As such, I will declare, Claire, you get to go first on the plugs.
Declare indeed.
Let me clarify a few things for
Yay!
you. Not sorry. I have a Patreon now. You can support me in my comedy. It's called The Very Unfunny Leftist. You can look up Patreon. Shout out to the many, many critics who have called me that online. I love it. And you can find me on Blue Sky at Clare Blackwood.
Phenomenal. Ian, anything specific?
Check what we're doing on thebeaverton.com. We're on TikTok now. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Threads. We're on all the good ones.
Oh, yeah.
Follow us there. And again, we're doing a show January 24th in Edmonton at Winterruption. We would love to see you there, so come on out. And otherwise, we will talk to you on New Year's Eve. See you then.
The Beaverton Weekly Report is produced by Andrew Rivamy in partnership with the From Superheroes Network. Visit FromSuperheroes.com to hear more great podcasts like this.